Hello everyone, and welcome to my January 2018 haul video. Welcome back to another haul video. I cannot believe that it is already 2018. I'm still getting used to that fact, but it was an interesting 2017, and I started these videos way back in December of 2016, so I am over a 1-year anniversary doing these videos here on my channel, and I do have quite a few things to show you from January. So the first thing I have here is a new trade paperback for Saga. This is volume 8. If you have not been reading this particular series, it is fantastic. It is put out by Image Comics. I highly recommend people checking it out. It is available in these trade paperback volumes all the way up to number 8. There are also 2 hardcover editions that assemble a lot of the issues in one place, so if you can get those, or get these, get the series any way you possibly can. But transitioning into all of the movies that I picked up in January, and the first one up here is the lone DVD that I picked up. That is of the film Lucky, which is one of the last films, I believe perhaps the last film, starring the late, great Harry Dean Stanton, and it was very sad to see him go, but he lived a very long life, and it was very nice to see him go out on a positive note, because he is fantastic in this movie, and the movie itself is also really good. If you're particularly wondering why I have the DVD and not the Blu-ray, it's because this was only released on DVD and not Blu-ray. Sometimes that tends to happen with a lot of smaller movies, where if they are not big enough, or if the distributor or studio doesn't think they're going to make a lot of money when it comes to the DVD or Blu-ray sales, they will just stick it on DVD because there's just not enough interest for it. They can't make the money back that it would cost them to make the Blu-rays. But next up here are 2 films I got rather interestingly. I don't know if many of you know this, but if you've been buying Sony films for years, or movies put out by Sony on Blu-ray or DVD, they come with Sony Rewards points, and I've always kind of shrugged those things up as kind of scamish, or being rather shady in what they want, because it's always like, hey, do this, do that, and you'll get a free movie, or whatever. But recently I decided to start logging the points from some of the movies, and they have this thing where every 5 movies that you log, you are allowed to get a free movie in return. You get a Blu-ray or a digital copy or a DVD, whatever you want, from a list of certain movies that they're willing to give you. It's not just pick anything from the Sony catalog. That would have been pretty cool. But no, it's a set list, and I was able to get 2 free movies, and the first one up I got is actually something I've been wanting to pick up for a number of years now, so that was very fortuitous to me, and that is Only Lovers Left Alive by director Jim Jarmusch, who is a great kind of indie art house film director. This film is particularly fantastic. It's a vampire film, but it's done in an art house form. It's very stylish and very great. It stars Tilda Swinton, Tom Hiddleston, Mia Wasikowska, the late Anton Yelchin, and of course also the late John Hurt. So a great cast. I highly recommend checking this film out if you haven't already. And the second one I got here is Inferno, the newest film in the Robert Langdon franchise, or I believe now it's a trilogy, starring Tom Hanks and Felicity Jones, and directed by Ron Howard. I particularly got it because it's directed by Ron Howard. And next up here, what I have is my favorite film of 2017, and that is Blade Runner 2049, the Ultra HD 4K Blu-ray edition. I had to get this movie the day it came out. It is an astonishing film for me. It is a sequel to one of my favorite films of all time, and it looks absolutely stunning, of course, in Blu-ray, in 4K, whichever way you want to watch it. I definitely highly recommend getting it. And next up here is an old silent film, probably a film many of you know if you are a fan of silent film, and that is The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. This release here was put out by Kino a few years ago, and it got a really fantastic restoration because, as you can imagine, this film is nearly 100 years old, and it definitely needed the work. I highly recommend getting getting a lot of the old silent pictures now on Blu-ray because a lot of them are getting brand new restorations, and I'm really happy for that because I'm all about film preservation and film restoration. That's kind of one of my main interests when it comes to movies. And next up here is actually an animated season of a show, and that is Justice League, the animated series, Season 2. I had waited years and years to get this because it was always so expensive, and I always wanted to get it with the slipcover. I'm one of those slipcover people. I know many people don't care about them at all. I perfectly understand. I've always just had that peculiarity about me. And I was really shocked to order this from deepdiscount.com, and it came with the slipcover. This is a release from 2011, and it came with the slipcover that was probably only in its original run. So that was really fortuitous for me, and I'm really glad that I'm slowly collecting all of those animated series from my childhood. If you've been following me long enough, you know I love anything and everything related to DC Comics. Next up here is a Studio Ghibli film that is put out by G-Kids and Shout Factory, and that is My Neighbors the Yamadas. G-Kids and Shout Factory are re-releasing a lot of Studio Ghibli films. If you've been following this long enough, you know in my November video that I did, I showed off a lot of the ones that they've done. There are a couple of more of these out that I gotta catch up on getting. Pompoko, Tale of Earthsea, The Cat Returns, and Whisper of the Heart. Next up here is a film by Yorgos Lanthimos, a Greek film director who directed Dogtooth and The Lobster, and that is The Killing of a Sacred Deer. This is an incredibly weird, artsy movie from a very weird guy. He's a director who's very similar to David Lynch. Not quite that crazy or trippy, but his films are rather unique, and this one is really, really good if you like his style of films. Next up is the newest film from director Kathryn Bigelow in Detroit. This is all about the 1967 Detroit riots, and this is a rather difficult film to watch. There's a lot of disturbing material in it when it comes to the treatment of African Americans. Check out the review I did for this film that's been up on my channel for a few months. Next up is a rather controversial film from last year, and that is Mother, directed by Darren Aronofsky and starring Jennifer Lawrence as well as Javier Bardem. And this film was not what people expected, to say the least. It's an allegorical film, it's an art house film, it's a crazy film. Check out my review of this film to get more of my thoughts on it. And next up is a film that came out quite a few years ago, and it's a film that I've been looking to kind of get in my collection ever since, but never quite got the opportunity to get it, and that is The Spectacular Now. This is a film that is directed by James Ponsell and starring Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley, and this was kind of when they were really starting to just come around to where people were recognizing who they are. Miles Teller's a lot more recognizable now, as well as Shailene Woodley. I've always liked James Ponsell as a director. I particularly liked his film from 2015 called The End of the Tour, starring Jason Segel and Jesse Eisenberg, all about the late author David Foster Wallace and the book tour of his book, The Infinite Jest. It's a rather interesting look at a rather interesting person. I highly recommend checking that film out. The last three things I have to show you are all Arrow video releases. One of these, particularly the first one here, is something I forgot to show in my last video, in my December video that I picked up, so I figured I'd just sneak it in here. I guess I can make up my own rules on my own channel. And that is Cinema Paradiso. This is the Barnes & Noble exclusive slipcover edition, if you will. The only thing that's different about this compared to the regular edition is the slipcover. It's the same exact disc in the same exact packaging. If you take the slipcover off here, it's just the release you'll see if you order it online or if you buy it in a store somewhere. This is an astounding film. I'm probably going to be doing a review of this film at some point on my channel, and I'll go into all of the extras and all the detail at that time. Next up here are two Arrow video limited editions. The first is Donnie Darko. This came out sometime last year, I believe, and this is a huge, thick set. We're talking very thick, and also with all kinds of extras. It comes with two cuts of the film, the director's cut, the theatrical cut. And the reason why I picked this up is because these tend to go out of print after a while. Once they're all bought up, they tend to go, and they're really hard to find for a reasonable price. So far, they've re-released Donnie Darko in a limited edition steelbook version, as well as just a regular Blu-ray edition version. So this one is probably going to go away pretty soon, so get your hands on this while you can. And last but certainly not least is The Apartment, a film by Billy Wilder. I did a whole big review about this release. I went inside all of the packaging as well as the contents on the disc. It is a fantastic release by Arrow Video. The movie's never looked better than this. I highly recommend getting this while you can. There was a huge snafu of trying to get copies when it came out back in December, so if you find this, get it while you can, because it's probably going to sell out soon as well. So that has been my January 2018 haul video. If there's anything you want to see in depth, please let me know. Also, if you like this video, please check out the other videos on my channel.